Oh, I need to get you ready, Chili. Are you decent? Good. Hello everyone, my name is Kinga Tanajewska and welcome to my channel On Her Bike. In April 2017 I started my round the world trip on this bike named Chili. She's 800 GS and I thought it would be a great idea to put this little video together to share with you my tips on how to prepare for the round the world trip. Shush! Quiet please! Silence! Silence! Go away! Don't come back! You naughty bird! So how to prepare for the round the world trip? So let's start with the most common question people ask me. How can I afford it? There are so many people doing similar things. There are people who travel overland, round the world, long distance, for a long time. And everyone's got a different story and different way of earning money on the road. So, first option, save up your money and go. I know, easy to say, not so easy to do. I can relate to that because I'm hopeless with saving my money. I can only spend them very well. Second, you can rent out your place if you have one. So you can live off rental fees. I know sometimes it's just not enough. Third, if you have property or business, you can just sell it. And then you have a big pile of money that will last you for a long time. What was the fourth? And the fourth one is where you can work on the road. You can work in the pubs, you can work in the hostels, you can work on the farms. And the other way of making money on the road is being a digital nomad. So maybe a good photographer, you can do that and sell your art. Or if you're a video maker, you can do that. Well, this is kind of earning money as well on the road. Thanks to you guys, because you're watching my videos on YouTube, I make money on that. And that's actually quite good income per month. And the fifth one is you can set up a Patreon or GoFundMe site where people can just donate money for your travels because they believe in you, because they enjoy your content or your videos or whatever you can offer them. I personally don't feel comfortable with having Patreon site or GoFundMe site, but this is just my way to connect with people. There's nothing wrong with that. It's your trip. You have to make a call if you feel uncomfortable. I'd rather you guys be spending your money on your fuel and go far as you can. And for that, I set up my online shop, my t-shirt shop, because from every item I earn $10. And that $10 goes towards video production, buying new gear because I keep breaking it. Another question I get asked a lot, why I started this. And really, if it wasn't for the fact that my personal life fell apart and I had head-on collision with a car, I have broken hand, broken leg, my relationship fell apart, I have a very stressful job, I had meltdown at work, I got really, really depressed. And that took a year for me to recover from all this sort of trauma and bad experiences. But after I got my compensation money from the insurance, I just thought this is the moment now or never. I've got the money, I've got the time, work can wait, relationship is over, I'm going. And that was my call. I thought, that's it, now or never. This is the time to do it, and I don't regret it. I started new life and I enjoy it so much. I don't know even when I'm gonna actually stop. So that's how I started, and that's how I had my initial money for this road. So my budget, if you take overall, per year I'm spending 25,000 American dollars for food, accommodation, fuel, visas, gear, everything. So when you think about it, this money would never last you in Australia or the States or Europe. It's just not possible because you've got bills to pay, you've got rental to pay, you've got lots of stuff to pay for. Here, the only problem I have every day is where I'm going to get fuel, where I'm going to eat, where I'm going to sleep. That's it. That's my problems for the day. So traveling overland, around the world, or whatever traveling you want to name it, it doesn't have to cost you much. I camp a lot. I stay with people a lot. I stay in cheap hostels on bunk beds. So really my living costs here in Africa are $20, 25 max for fuel accommodation and food. So it's really not that much when you think about it. Documentation. So what documents we need to travel? Of course we need a passport or 2 passports. I'm lucky enough, I've got dual citizenship, so I've got Australian passport and I've got Polish passport. But please do research, because some of the countries allow you to have 2 passports. So in Australia you can be issued with 2 passports. And the good thing about it is sometimes you're applying for visas as you go, and sometimes you need to send away your passport and you don't have it for a couple of weeks. But you still have the second one, so you can keep traveling without wasting time. So this is really good. If you have the chance, get yourself 2 passports. All right, second document is your driving license. Of course, you have to have original driving license with you. My one is from Australia, plus the international driving license permit. You apply for this one in a country where your original driving license is from. Sometimes on the borders, I've been asked for original one, sometimes for international one. So it's important to travel with both. Third document is your registration paper. My bike is registered in Australia, so this is how our registration paper looks like. It got me in trouble a few times because some of the officers at the border wouldn't believe me that this is the registration paper, but that's how it is. That's how we roll in Australia. So you need to carry your registration document, plus additionally, if you're going through countries where carnet de passage is required, you need to carry carnet de passage. This document is giving headache to so many travelers. Carnet de passage is a document, basically it's sort of like a booklet, and then the way it works, you cross the border, you show that one, and the custom officer stamps it here, puts the date when you entered, and then on the way out it stamps that the bike left the country. Not all the countries require carnet de passage, only few of them in the world actually. You really need to plan your route and your timing right, because this document is valid 1 year and it costs a lot of money, and there is no rule how much money it costs, because that really depending on the laws in your country. So for example, my one is from Australia and I paid for it $1,500, of which $500 is a deposit. So once I bring my bike back to Australia, I will get $500 back. So basically that cost me $1,000 and I will never get this money back. And this is my second one, so I already wasted $2,000. But that's Aussie rules. In Europe it's different. In Europe you pay a deposit of the value of the bike. So some countries you will have to put 100% the value of the bike deposit, which could be 10, 20,000 depending on the bike you're traveling on. So in some countries they're going to require 50%, some countries they're going to require 30% deposit, and they will give you this money back once you're back to the country. So sort of it freezes your deposit for the amount of time that you're traveling. The reason for that is countries like Egypt, Iran, Sudan, and all the ones that required carnet de passage, they just want to make sure you will not sell this bike in their countries. So this is sort of like a passport for your motorcycle. So you stamp it on the way in and on the way out. And then you will get the deposit back once you're back from the trip. At the moment I'm in a situation where my carnet de passage is expired. And I already crossed the countries that required carnet de passage. And I don't want to spend another $1,500 on third carnet de passage. Sure, it's much easier to travel because you just sort of in and out and at the borders in Africa, and it's much easier. But then again, I just don't want to spend that money again. If you don't have carnet de passage and you're traveling through African countries, for example, or even Russia, a lot of post-Soviet countries, they do exactly the same thing. They issue you with a TIP. TIP is temporary import permit. So basically it's a declaration that they take your VIN number and they take all the details of your bike, engine capacity, and all sort of stuff, that sort of stuff. And then they sort of, you sign in, you fill that out, or they fill it out for you, and you sign in, and then you're good to go and to enter the country. So pretty much it's like a permit for your bike to enter. So this is what I've been doing for the last 6 months since my carnet's expired. In terms of insurance, well, I do not have comprehensive insurance for the bike. I don't even know if such insurance exists to cover the whole world. But I do buy third-party insurance at the borders as I cross them. And it really depends on the continent you're traveling through. In Europe, you have Green Card, which covers you for majority of the EU countries, and I think few others which are not in EU. And it's quite expensive, but you have to have it because when police stops you, you will have to show that. They've got something similar in Africa as well. The insurance is called COMESA, and it covers you for around 13 countries. So it's really handy to just purchase one and then you're covered. And I really wouldn't suggest you traveling through Africa with that third-party insurance. They will not ask you, majority of the time, no one will even ask you if you have it, but I strongly suggest you buying it, because if you will hurt someone on the road, I don't know what they're gonna do to you here. Like, it's a very big risk. I've heard stories, people went to jail and they were there for a long time. So it's better to have it, cover yourself. All the other insurance I really purchase as I go on the borders. So passport, driving license, international driving license, carnet, all your registration paper, all filling out the tip, and purchase insurance at the border. Easy. And pretty much all the border crossings are the same, so the same procedure, maybe except for Egypt and Sudan. That's a completely different story, but I'm not going to even start on that. You can read my blog, there's lots of details there. You ready? Health. Before the start of my trip, I had few vaccines done: polio, salmonella, hepatitis A and B, cholera, and yellow fever. Yellow fever is very important vaccine for African continent. When you're getting that vaccine done, you will receive this booklet. It's called International Certificate of Vaccination for Yellow Fever. So what your doctor's supposed to do is he's supposed to sign it and put a stamp on when you had it done. So it's very important to keep this booklet with you all the time as you're crossing the borders, because you might be asked for it. Also, once you've been to African continent, it's very important to have that booklet pretty much everywhere you go. If you go to Australia, they might ask you for it. Once they see the stamps from Africa, then they're going to ask for that. So always have it with you. In terms of health insurance, for majority of my time, I've been using an insurer called World Nomads. I'm actually very happy with them. I had surgery done in Kazakhstan. I had some medical tests done in Israel, and they always reimbursed me money after my claim. So I never had problems with them. It cost me around 800 to 1,200 Aussie dollars per year, depending on which countries I take for the year. So of course, if I'm traveling through Europe, the fee is going to be more expensive, because it's much more expensive to get medical care in European countries than, for example, Central Asia. How to plan your accommodation. I just tend to go with the flow. I do a lot of wild camping if it feels right. Just set up my tent. If I find a nice spot and there's no one around, no one can see me, I'll just do that. If it doesn't feel right, I just camp at the camping grounds. I stay in hostels, cheap hotels, cabins like this. So how do I plan it? I normally tend to use two applications. One is Maps.me, which is an offline map that I use for navigation as well, and it shows you hotels, hostels, and camping grounds in the areas you're going through. So that's good, but there's no extra information. Another one is called iOverlander, and this is an awesome map. The way it works, all the overlanders that are going through the country contribute their own opinion on places they stayed, and that could be a wild camping, That could be camping ground, that could be hotel, hostel, whatever that is. And and the information is there. They already tell you what's the price, what are the facilities there, is there Wi-Fi, is there reception, is there hot water, all those sort of things. So really, before you go to the place, you already know all the information. So that's really, really handy. I also tend to stay with the locals, and that's the best part of my journey, really. And I try to do at least once in every country. How do I stay with the locals? Well, majority of these invites I get online on my social media channels. Our biking community is really close, and I'm sure if you're active on social media, you will get these invites as well. There's no better way of knowing the country and its culture than staying with the locals and see how they live, see their point of view on their own home. Or sometimes people just invite me on the street just to have a meal with them or to stay for the night. You just meet people along the way. Just be open. Engage with the locals. It's the best part of the journey. So what do I eat? Food. I'm probably the last person to give you the advice how we should feed ourselves on the road. I've got really bad habits. I tend to eat twice a day when I'm on the road. So basically what I would do, for breakfast I would have coffee, biscuits or whatever I have, just like nibbles. And then I would stop in the middle of the day and I would have sort of lunch / dinner, and that would be a big meal. I tend to just stop in local restaurants, bars, petrol stations, whatever I can, whatever is on my way and I feel like. Sure, there's always a risk that you can get food poisoning, especially in Central Asia. I got a lot of that. In Africa, happened to me a couple of times too. So look, I think if you avoid meat, especially in countries where there's no power and there's no, like, the refrigerators are not working, like Ethiopia for example, meat was served everywhere but no power. So I was just eating only vegetarian. I also carry with me emergency food, which sort of takes half of my pannier. I'm running low at the moment. I haven't been shopping for a while, but normally I would tend to have canned fish because you can just eat it without cooking, instant noodles, red lentils, just dry pasta, just dry stuff that you can just cook it with. I don't know, you can just buy onion or you just can add some spices and oil. That'd be right. So I'm carrying with me fuel stove, so I can fill it up with fuel at any petrol station. As I fill up my bike, I just fill up this one as well. So it's easy to use, and you don't have to worry about these gas cylinders. So I think it's for overlanding, it's the best way to go. I just look like I know what I'm doing, but not really. Okay, I'm warmed up. Okay. At the end of my video, I wanted to answer some of your questions that you guys asked me on Instagram just recently. So question number 1 is, are you scared to travel alone? No, I'm not. Actually, I don't think I could do it any other way, because the freedom is priceless and you don't need to wait for anyone. But of course, there's always a risk. You can be hit by a car in the front of your house. You can be bashed up in a nightclub. You can, I don't know, things can happen to you everywhere, no matter where you go, right? So there's no point of worrying about it. You've got 2 choices. First one, you can either do it yourself and live your life, or second one, you can just sit at home, keep doing nothing and watch other people doing it. So no, I'm not scared. Of course, there were a few situations where I was actually concerned about my safety, and that only happened on 3 occasions in 3-year time. So I think that's pretty good effort. Look, the only tip I've got for you guys is listen to your guts, listen to your intuition. If place doesn't feel right, don't stay there. If people don't feel right, don't hang out with them. And there's something about traveling on a motorcycle. My bike is my safety net. Most of the time when men see me on such big loaded motorcycle that probably they're not capable of riding themselves. They feel intimidated, which is a good thing. So I hardly ever get problems at the borders. I hardly get problems with police. So it's actually the advantage, I think, to be a solo woman on a motorcycle, because it's sort of like people really respect you, and there's something about being by yourself that people want to care for you and they want to make sure you're okay. So I think it's a great experience, and no, I'm not scared at all. There's nothing to be scared about, trust me. Okay. Question number 2. Why do I have a delay in YouTube channel? I've got 2 good reasons for that. First of all, the internet is not good enough. Majority of the places I've been in on African continent in last year, the internet was too weak, or there was none. So the only things I could actually do on the road was publish a post on Instagram and Facebook and sometimes do a story. That's it. And another reason is I'm working with editor. So for me to release a video, if I had to do it by myself, it's 2 weeks of work to go through all the content, through all my 5 cameras, pick the footage I want, edit it, process. So this is how slow I am. It would take me at least 2 weeks. So if it wasn't for my editor, Joanna from Romania, she's awesome. Greetings, Joanna. If it wasn't for her and her help, you would never see any footage from my trip. So the way we work with Joanna is I'm uploading stuff on cloud, and to do that, I have to fly somewhere every 6 months to do that. So she's got content for another 6 months, and I can continue traveling. Once Joanna receives the content in Romania, she's just going through all the content, cuts it down to 1.5 hours, and then this is the moment where I'm hopping in to the process, and she will send me this 1.5 hours, and then I will just divide it in 5 whatever episodes, and it will tell her add this effect, add this caption, move this here, move that there, cut that, do that. So I'm still quite involved in the process of editing my videos. And one episode just working with Joanna, it takes us still 2 days. So it's a massive amount of work. I think people don't realize how much work is involved when you're starting to create YouTube videos, especially when you're using 5 cameras, and that's just a lot of content and a lot of things to go through. So that's why my content is delayed, probably around 7-8 months, but I'm getting better now. Question number 3. How do you deal with men wanting sex in exchange for offering assistance? I don't know. No one ever offered me this. Maybe something wrong with me. Bloody hell. And this is the end of my first video, how to prepare for the round the world trip. Thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to my channel and join me on Facebook and Instagram. On my second video, I'll be covering all the gear I've got on my bike and also my riding gear. I will cover how to ship your bike to the world, what are the options, and how to organize tires on the road, and how to become a sponsored rider. So please stay tuned. Testing, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's really important. Bloody pump, stop. And now in terms of health insurance, for majority of my travels, so it's very important, I am covered with great nomads, world nomads. Okay, behind the scenes. I'm so professional, hey? Alright. And this is the end of my first video. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.